The tension between Jannik Sinner and Juan Carlos Ferrero has become one of the most talked about subjects in tennis. What began as a simple philosophical disagreement about how to approach elite performance has evolved into a generational clash between two worldviews. Ferrero, mentor of Carlos Alcaraz and a symbol of the old-school discipline that defined the early 2000s, recently declared that, to reach the top, one must become a slave to tennis. It was meant as motivation, a statement about total dedication and sacrifice, but Sinner's elegant and pointed response transformed it into a global debate. Sinner rejected the idea of being a slave to the sport. For him, tennis is not a prison but a passion. He explained that his longevity and consistency come precisely from balance, not from obsessive control. "I love this game, that's what keeps me motivated, not fear or sacrifice," he said. The words resonated widely, especially because of Sinner's current dominance on tour. Fresh from titles in Paris and Vienna and reclaiming the world #1 spot, at least temporarily. The Italian's perspective reveals the deep contrast between generations. Ferrero grew up in an era defined by grueling routines, endless repetitions, and the mentality that pain was proof of greatness. In contrast, Sinner belongs to a new wave of athletes who emphasize mental health, recovery, and emotional well-being as essential tools for success. This difference isn't about laziness or softness. It's about efficiency, sustainability, and purpose. Sinner's approach is visible on the court. He plays with controlled aggression, rarely showing frustration, maintaining the same focus in victory or defeat. Coaches and analysts point out that this stability stems from the way he trains. Shorter sessions, high quality, deliberate rest, and the use of sports psychology. In his own words, tennis teaches you about yourself, it doesn't need to consume you. Many in the tennis community interpreted Ferrero's comment as a reflection of an outdated philosophy. One that produced champions like Nadal, Federer, and Djokovic, but also burned out countless players before their prime. Sinner's counter-narrative offers something different. Joy as fuel, not punishment. It's the idea that loving your work leads to more consistent excellence than fearing failure ever could. Interestingly, Carlos Alcaraz finds himself in the middle of this ideological tension. Trained under Ferrero's old-school standards yet naturally joyful and spontaneous, Alcaraz seems to represent a hybrid of both worlds. His constant smile hides a rigorous routine built on discipline, but also a freedom of expression that aligns more with Sinner's ethos. As the ATP Finals unfold in Turin, this philosophical debate has added a new layer of intrigue. Beyond the points and titles, tennis is witnessing an evolution in mindset. Ferrero's doctrine of sacrifice faces Sinner's belief in balance, and the results on court may determine which philosophy defines the next decade of the sport. The Italian's success has turned his words into more than opinion. They're a statement of power. When a player wins while staying true to his mental well-being, it forces everyone, including coaches like Ferrero, to question long-held beliefs. The story is no longer just about rivalry. It's about the future of tennis itself. While the philosophical tension between Sinner and Ferrero made headlines, what followed after the ATP Finals draw in Turin intensified the discussion even further. During Media Day, both players were asked about their views on sacrifice, and though they avoided naming each other directly, their answers made the contrast clear. Carlos Alcaraz, loyal to Ferrero's mentorship but influenced by his own personality, offered a middle-ground response. "Every player needs to find their own way," he said. "For me, discipline is essential, but I also try to enjoy every match. If you're not having fun, it's impossible to play your best." His words reflected an awareness of both philosophies. He didn't reject Ferrero's demanding methods but recognized that joy fuels his creativity. Sinner, in turn, expanded on his idea of passion over slavery. "I don't want to live tennis as an obligation. I want to play with joy. When I was a kid, I played many sports. That made me love competition, not fear it. For me, that's the secret to longevity." It was a calm, intelligent answer, but one that clearly challenged the mindset Ferrero embodies. The timing of these comments couldn't have been more relevant. With Novak Djokovic withdrawing from the ATP Finals due to a shoulder injury, the tournament suddenly became the ultimate stage for Sinner and Alcaraz to prove which philosophy triumphs under pressure. Djokovic's absence also shifted the competitive dynamic. The Jimmy Connors group, where Alcaraz competes, is now significantly less demanding than Sinner's, giving the Spaniard a clear advantage in the fight for year-end world #1. Behind the scenes, Ferrero reportedly wasn't pleased with Sinner's remarks. According to several journalists in Turin, he found them disrespectful to the effort that greatness demands. The Spanish coach believes that talent alone isn't enough and that extreme discipline remains irreplaceable. From his point of view, passion without sacrifice risks complacency. But for Sinner, the argument isn't about avoiding effort. It's about redefining what effort means. His training sessions are intense but purposeful, focused on precision and mental calm rather than pure exhaustion. He's built a team around him that prioritizes psychological balance and recovery as much as physical conditioning. It's no coincidence that his level has stayed consistent across the grueling indoor swing, where most players fade under mental fatigue. Fans have noticed the difference. Social media has exploded with clips of Sinner's composure compared to Alcaraz's explosive energy. While Alcaraz thrives on emotion, roaring after key points, Sinner channels his intensity inward. The contrast creates a fascinating rivalry, not just between two champions, but between two schools of tennis philosophy. Meanwhile, Ferrero's approach continues to bear fruit. Under his guidance, Alcaraz remains one of the most complete athletes on the circuit. Powerful, disciplined, and capable of adapting to any surface. His success is proof that structure still works, but it also shows the cost. It requires a mental toughness that not every player can sustain year after year. In many ways, this clash between Ferrero and Sinner represents a generational shift happening across all sports. The question is no longer who works harder, but who works smarter. The obsession with perfection is being replaced by the pursuit of sustainability. Mental health is no longer a weakness. It's part of the strategy. As the ATP Finals move forward, the court will become the laboratory where these two mentalities collide. Will Sinner's calm intensity outlast Alcaraz's fiery discipline? Or will Ferrero's old-school methods prove that sacrifice still reigns supreme? The answer may define the future of tennis for the next decade. As the lights of the Pala Alpha Tour in Turin illuminated the final practice sessions before the ATP Finals, the tension surrounding the philosophical clash between Jannik Sinner and Juan Carlos Ferrero continued to ripple through the circuit. What had begun as a subtle difference in mindset had evolved into a public reflection on how modern champions are shaped, and on what it truly takes to stay at the top. Carlos Alcaraz, in his typically cheerful yet determined tone, downplayed the controversy when asked about Ferrero's "slave to tennis" comment. "I know what my coach meant," he explained during a press appearance. He didn't mean it literally. What he wanted to say is that tennis demands everything from you, and if you're not willing to give it, you can't stay at this level. Then with a grin he added, "But yes, I also try to enjoy myself. Otherwise, it's impossible to keep going." That small nuance summed up the contrast perfectly. Ferrero's doctrine is rooted in sacrifice, a belief forged in an era when players like Nadal and Djokovic built empires on relentless repetition and discipline. Sinner, by contrast, is the face of a new generation. Methodical yet human, emotionally open but still fiercely competitive. His calm expression hides a philosophy built on trust. Trust in his preparation, in his instincts, and in the idea that joy and focus can coexist without contradiction. For many in the tennis community, this debate goes beyond individual personalities. It symbolizes a deeper transformation within the sport itself. The modern tennis player is no longer expected to burn out young in pursuit of greatness. Instead, balance, recovery, and mental clarity have become integral tools of success. Coaches like Ferrero see that evolution with a mix of admiration and caution. For them, the danger lies in losing the edge, that hunger that once defined the legends. In the days leading up to the first matches, both camps maintained mutual respect, though the press insisted on feeding the narrative. Ferrero was seen observing Sinner's training session with quiet intensity, while Alcaraz's team analyzed every possible detail of the Italian's game. The Spaniard knows that to reclaim the world number one, he must combine Ferrero's discipline with a touch of Sinner's serenity. That's the paradox of his challenge. To play with heart, but also with calm. On the court, however, words fade. The first day of the ATP Finals confirmed that both men are ready for a psychological and tactical duel. Sinner, backed by a roaring Italian crowd, plays with clarity and precision. Alcaraz, freshly energized by Djokovic's withdrawal, approaches each point like a man reborn, fearless and electric. Every rally between them feels like a philosophical statement, the joy of freedom versus the beauty of control. By the time the tournament concludes, one thing will be certain. This rivalry is redefining tennis not only through power and technique, but through values. The question is no longer who trains harder or who wins more titles, but who will inspire the next generation to find their own version of excellence. Ferrero's old-school rigor and Sinner's emotional balance are two sides of the same truth. Greatness requires both intensity and meaning. And perhaps that's what makes this era so special. Between the roars of Alcaraz and the quiet fire of Sinner, tennis is entering a golden age where the mind matters as much as the racket. The final message, as Alcaraz himself said after his debut win in Turin, resonates beyond the match. We all train hard. But at the end of the day, the key is to love what you do. That's how you keep going, even when it hurts. The ATP Finals may decide who ends 2025 as world number one, but more importantly, they're defining what kind of champion the future will belong to.